Good morning, friends. My name is Crystal, and if you're new here, I am coming at you from Zone 8B in the Pacific Northwest. I'm going to do a quick video today. It's going to be about making yogurt in the Excalibur Dehydrator, which is super quick and super easy to make, so I figured I would also throw in the granola recipe that I've been making, which is really great with the yogurt. And it's a good fermented yogurt, so I think you guys will like it. I've actually made this video once already, and I am so new to YouTube that I filmed in the wrong orientation, so I wasn't able to use it as an actual video. I had to turn it into a short video, so you might have seen that one. Um, so I'm remaking this video, and the first time I made this was the first time I've made this, so now several times have passed by and I've gotten used to making this recipe and it's always been successful, so I'm a little bit more confident in showing this recipe, both of them. So I think it'll be a quick video, a redo of what we've already made, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. So there are different ways to make yogurt from what I understand. I'm going to be using my dehydrator for this. I have an Excalibur 9 tray dehydrator, which you can remove the drawers, and so you can fit entire quart jars or mason jars, whatever, inside the dehydrator to complete the yogurt making process. However, there are other options. I believe some people make it with pressure cooker or Instant Pot, I think, and you might be able to get the same effect as the Excalibur if your oven goes low enough. So we'll talk about temperature and stuff, and you can take a look. Otherwise, if you're interested in the Excalibur dehydrator, I do have it linked in the description below if you want to see it. It's awesome. I use it for proofing my breads, making yogurt, fruit leathers, dehydrating anything. Especially if you're a gardener, it's really good for dehydrating your herbs and your teas and stuff, and really good for things like spinach and kale to make good superfood powders. Amazing tool. So I've been using it every other week to make yogurt. I make about 2 quarts of yogurt, and this is the easiest the easiest recipe ever. All you need is this is about 2 liters of whole milk. 2 liters, 8 cups. I'm not sure what the conversion is for whatever units you guys use where you live. But yeah, I use a full 2 liter of milk, and I'm just using the regular milk from the store. Where I live, it is illegal to use whole milk, so I won't be using raw milk. It's illegal, and I'm sure it would work with this, but I wouldn't know because I haven't tried or looked it up. There's no need because I can't access that stuff anyways. So I'm using just regular store-bought whole milk. That's all you need. You need a pot, you need a thermometer, and then you need some yogurt that has culture. So you can either buy a little bit of yogurt and just use a couple tablespoons from that, or since I'm doing this bi-weekly frequently, I actually just save a little bit of my last week's yogurt, and I'll just use that and keep cycling it. Now you can also buy dry packets of yogurt culture on Amazon or many other places, but it's not a bad idea. But it doesn't seem necessary as long as you stay on top of it and keep making yogurt over and over again. The other thing is you can always save a couple tablespoons and freeze it. If you freeze it and then thaw it out when you need it, it works just as fine. It's kind of like a nice little emergency insurance policy if you use that. So it's super simple. All I'm going to do is I'm going to drop this into a pot, and I'm going to let it come to a boil, and then I'm going to turn off the stove and we're going to let it drop down to a certain temperature, okay? Super easy. 2 liters, 8 cups. So yeah, all there is to it now is to let it come to a boil, and then we'll drop the heat and come back. Okay, so it's been a couple minutes, and we're looking to get the temperature of the milk to be 185 degrees Fahrenheit. I just checked it, and I am at 185. So now that we've reached 185 degrees, we can remove it from heat, and then we're just going to let it come down naturally in temperature until it hits 115 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so from my experience with making this yogurt, it takes a long time to cool down to 115 degrees naturally. So it requires some patience. It'll take like half an hour or so, but this is a perfect time to make granola while you wait. We're going to mix together the wet ingredients, the dry ingredients, and I'm actually going to let it ferment for a couple hours just so that the granola has more bioavailability. So this recipe, I usually use maple syrup. I don't have any, so I'm using honey. I've done this before already, and it's not bad. So first thing I'm going to do is add some honey and then add my melted butter on top so that it can heat up a little bit so it's not so sticky and it's easier to mix. So my honey. I added about 2 tablespoons of honey. You can add like 6 tablespoons of maple syrup if you have that. Four tablespoons of butter. And I'm just going to mix the honey and the butter together just to help melt the honey a little bit better. Next, I'm going to add half a cup of sourdough starter discard. This is really great once you get into the habit of like making this yogurt and granola like bi-weekly or so. It also will trigger a memory for you to feed your sourdough starter if you're somebody that has a hard time remembering. I'm using a brand new sourdough starter I got off Etsy. It's called the Black Death. Next, I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of ground flaxseed. I just buy flaxseed and then I will grind it up myself. 1, 2, 3. And then you can add a little bit of spice to add whatever flavor you like. I'm going to add, I think, cinnamon and just a touch of nutmeg because I like that. And then I'm going to use vanilla extract. I'm sure other extracts would be delicious in this, like almond extract or what have you. So I'm going to add that. Cinnamon, nutmeg. I have a little bit of this vanilla extract left. I also have really good like Mexican clear vanilla. If you've ever tried it, it's like, it tastes like an old-timey bake shop. It's really good for like cookies and stuff like that. And it's really cool because it's clear. It doesn't mess up the color of like your food dyes, or if you have a really pure white icing, it doesn't mess with that at all. But I also started this vanilla extract. This is a bourbon vanilla extract with grade A vanilla beans. Super easy to make. I started this in December and I don't really want to use it until next December because I really want to let it age. So I'm going to bust this out next year for Christmas baking and I'm so excited. But I won't be using it for this. Adding vanilla, just measure with the heart. And I'm going to just add a touch of sea salt to give it something extra. Okay, so that's kind of like the wet ingredient base. This smells amazing. It smells like a really good like pumpkin spice sourdough loaf right now. Yeah, it's good. So now that it's all consistent and mixed together, we can add nuts and seeds. I just forgot that I wanted to add 1/8 of a cup of water to this wet ingredients mix because I'm going to be fermenting it. Give it another mix. And then I'm going to add 2 cups of oats. Oops. And then to this, I'm going to add, I was going to say a 1/4 cup of hemp hearts, but it looks like I'm basically at the tail end, so I'm just going to add what I have. And I'm going to do a full cup of nuts. I have pecans and I have almonds to make a full cup. Okay, this is a full cup. And then we're gonna do 1/2 cup of seeds. Now I have sunflower seeds and I have pepitas or pumpkin seeds. Half a cup of seeds. And then if you happen to have flaked coconut, that's really tasty in this. I've done it once. It helps to sweeten this because this isn't the sweetest. This isn't a sweet granola like you would get at the grocery store. I'm pretty happy with this. It's got a really good chunky consistency. Okay, so I'm just going to cover this up and I'm going to leave it to ferment on my countertop for like 3 hours or so. This step is not necessary if you don't feel like doing this. Don't add the 1/8 cup of water and just continue on with the next step. But I really like doing this. I'm big on fermented foods. So I think this is kind of like a must. Okay, over here at the yogurt station, we're looking for 115 degrees, and we are currently at 138-ish. Okay, so we're not quite there. I told you it would take a while. Okay, so the milk has now decreased in temperature down to 115 degrees. So we are good to add our yogurt culture. So I usually just don't even need to fill it this much, but I usually have like a little container of this with a little bit of extra yogurt. As long as you use it within 2 weeks, you should be just fine. Otherwise, you can freeze this like I said. So I'm going to be adding this whole jar, but 4 tablespoons is plenty. And then we're just going to mix it together, and you want this to completely dissolve in our milk mixture. So sometimes if I have less than this in this jar, I will just add some of this milk into here and mix it inside there to make sure it's all melted. But I don't have enough room. Yeah, so you'll see this is just milk that kind of cooked on the bottom. I'm using a non-stick pan because normally I don't, and then I can't get this off the bottom of my pan, and it's kind of a messy catastrophe. So I'm switching to my non-stick, and I'm just going to use it as is. How I'm going to deal with these floating bits and pieces is I've actually got, as you can see here, this is my mason jar. I'm going to fill 2 quart mason jars full, and then I have my canning funnel, and I just slipped in a little mesh strainer in there so it'll catch all the debris. So, for the record, I actually don't like using non-stick pans. I understand that the Teflon coating is not good for us. So, I get it. I don't like it either, but the amount of work that I had to go through to get my stainless steel pan clean was just too much. Too much for me. So, okay, so now that that's all done, I'm just gonna get the lids on these guys. Okay, so we're going to remove the trays out of the dehydrator, put these in for 9 hours at 110 degrees. 310 for 9 hours. It's been a few hours, and so we can now flatten this onto a baking sheet and we'll throw it in the oven at 315. Okay, so I have flattened the granola onto the cookie sheet. I'm going to throw it in at 315 for 20 minutes, take it out for about 5 minutes, let it cool, and then once it's cool, I'm going to break it apart into chunks and put it back in for another 15 minutes. After it's done the second 15 minutes, it needs to sit for like half an hour, 45 minutes to completely cool. If you don't do that, it might feel like it's still not crispy, not crunchy, so you have to like let it sit for that 45 minutes. So I'm going to put it in for the first 20 minutes now. This is going back in for 15 minutes. Good morning. It's the next day and I don't normally film this early, but it's breakfast time and I'm hungry, and I had all of this delicious fresh yogurt in the fridge. So I figured we can make breakfast together. So the yogurt was not quite in the dehydrator for 9 hours. By the time I was ready to go to sleep, it was at about 7.5 hours. So I took it out and put it in the fridge, and it's just fine. I've actually had it in there less than that in the past, and it did just fine. Still tasty, good consistency and everything. So that's a-okay. As you can see, got 2 quarts of yogurt, and then I ended up with a quart plus a bit and a little bit extra for the granola. And I just wanted to say that despite using honey in the granola, it's quite like a plain tasting granola. It is first and foremost healthy, which is what I look for. So the yogurt is just a plain yogurt. I'm interested in learning how to make more like flavored yogurts in the future, but for now I'm content with this plain yogurt and then the plain granola. It's just like good, healthy, probiotic rich breakfast that I make more flavorful and sweeten it a bit with dry fruit. So I have over here, I have my bananas and I have some dried mangoes. And then I also like to use some homemade jam or jelly. And I like this because it gives me a reason to make lots of jams and jellies next year, because I am using them between making sourdough loaves and doing yogurt. I think we go through a decent amount of jams and jellies, so I think it's worth making a bunch. Anywho, let's make some breakfast. Okay, so you see nice creamy yogurt. I like to give it a little bit of a mix, but I do that even with store-bought yogurt. Granola. I'm going to use the dehydrated bananas over the mangoes because I had a couple mangoes when I woke up this morning. And apple jelly. Okay, there you go. There's breakfast. Homemade everything. So we made the yogurt and granola today. I made the apple jelly last fall on my own. And if you're interested in learning more about the bananas, I did just recently make a video about experimenting with dipping methods for dehydrating bananas. You can use citrus, you could use nothing, you can honey dip them, you could use an antioxidizing agent, and if you watch that video, you will see my favorite method. As you can tell, some bananas look a little different than others. That's because this is a mixture of all the different experiment bananas. So yeah, if you're interested, that's another video using the Excalibur Dehydrator. That's a good comforting breakfast. Okay, so I'm gonna go enjoy my breakfast and my coffee and take care of my little headache. But it was nice to have you guys here in this video today. Go learn how to make yogurt with me and granola, of course. So as always, I am new to YouTube, so your like, shares, and subscribes mean the world to me, and I am so grateful to have you all here. So thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.